Have you ever started something with burning excitement? Maybe a new fitness routine, a side hustle, a creative project, only to watch that motivation fade within days or weeks? You're not alone. In fact, nearly 92% of people fail to achieve their New Year's resolutions. And it's not because they're lazy or weak. It's because most of us misunderstand how motivation actually works. We think motivation is a magical energy source that appears when we're passionate and disappears when we're not. But the truth is, motivation is less about how you feel and more about how your brain processes rewards, habits, and expectations. Today, we're diving deep into the psychology of motivation, why you quit, and how to fix it. Let's begin by debunking the biggest myth that motivation precedes action. Research in behavioral psychology shows the opposite. In many cases, action creates motivation. This is known as the activation energy principle. Think about how hard it is to start a workout, but how much better you feel during or after it. That initial resistance isn't a sign that you're doomed to fail. It's just your brain trying to conserve energy. You see, your brain is wired for survival, not success. It favors comfort and safety over uncertainty and risk, even if that risk could lead to long-term rewards. Now let's talk about dopamine, the neurotransmitter often associated with pleasure. Most people think dopamine is released after you achieve something, but that's only partly true. Dopamine is actually released in anticipation of a reward. This is crucial. When your brain believes an action will bring a satisfying outcome, it releases dopamine before you even act. That's what gets you moving. So when you quit, it's often because your brain no longer believes the reward is worth the effort. In other words, your dopamine system isn't broken, it's just misinformed. And that brings us to the first fix: reconnect with meaningful rewards. A major reason people lose motivation is because they set goals that aren't emotionally meaningful. Take weight loss, for example. If your goal is just to look better, that's vague and externally driven. But if you tie your goal to a core personal value, like being healthy for your kids or feeling confident in your own skin, it becomes a purpose-driven goal. The brain responds better to emotional rewards than abstract outcomes. So ask yourself, why does this goal matter to me? What will my life look like if I stay consistent? Create a vivid mental image of your why and revisit it often. That image becomes a fuel source when motivation starts to fade. Next, let's talk about friction, those tiny barriers that make quitting easier than continuing. This is where the psychology of habit comes in. Motivation alone is unreliable. That's why successful people build systems, not just willpower. If your goal is to write a book, waiting to feel inspired each day is a recipe for failure. But if you create a writing schedule, same time, same place, and reduce distractions, you train your brain to expect writing as a normal part of your day. That's what researchers call cue-driven behavior. The fewer decisions you have to make, the less resistance you feel. Motivation follows momentum. But what about those days when you really just don't feel like it? That's where identity-based motivation comes in. Instead of saying, I want to work out, say, I'm the kind of person who works out. That small shift rewires your self-image. Your brain is deeply motivated to stay consistent with who you believe you are. If your actions don't align with your identity, it creates cognitive dissonance, a kind of mental discomfort. And guess what? That discomfort can work in your favor. When you adopt the identity of a disciplined, committed person, skipping the gym or procrastinating starts to feel wrong. You're no longer chasing motivation, you're protecting your integrity. Now let's address fear and perfectionism, two invisible forces that kill motivation. A lot of people quit not because they're lazy, but because they're scared. Scared of failure, scared of not being good enough, scared of wasting time. And that fear often wears the mask of perfectionism. If I can't do it perfectly, I won't do it at all. Sound familiar? Here's the truth. Motivation dies in the shadow of unrealistic expectations. If you set the bar at 100% every time, you'll burn out fast. Instead, aim for consistency over intensity. Build a streak of small wins. This builds confidence, and confidence boosts motivation like nothing else. Another key factor is self-compassion. Most of us are brutal when we mess up. We talk to ourselves in ways we'd never talk to a friend. I'm such a failure. I always screw things up. But studies show that people who practice self-compassion are actually more motivated. not less. Why? Because guilt and shame create avoidance, while kindness and forgiveness create resilience. When you fall off track, and you will, don't waste energy on self punishment. Just say, that wasn't my best day. Tomorrow, I'll try again. That mindset keeps the motivation loop intact. Shame breaks it. Let's also talk about environmental design, a huge but underrated aspect of motivation. Your surroundings either push you toward your goals or pull you away from them. Want to stop eating junk food? Don't keep it in the house. Want to read more books? Put your phone in another room. This isn't about discipline, it's about designing defaults. Make your desired behavior the path of least resistance. One powerful technique is temptation bundling, pairing something you enjoy with something you resist. For example, listen to your favorite podcast only when you go for a walk. Your brain begins to associate the unpleasant task with a positive experience, reinforcing motivation. Still with me? Good, because now we're going to explore social motivation. Humans are tribal creatures. We're wired to care about how we're perceived by others. That can be a powerful tool if used wisely. Share your goals with someone you trust. Even better, find an accountability partner or a group working toward the same thing. The fear of disappointing someone or letting the group down can actually strengthen your commitment. This is why support groups, mastermind circles, and even fitness challenges work so well. It's not just external pressure, it's shared momentum. Finally, let's address the motivation dip. Every long-term goal has one. The early days are fueled by novelty and excitement, but that always fades. At some point, things get boring or hard or frustrating, and that's where most people quit. The secret? Expect the dip. Plan for it. Make it part of the process. When you know it's coming, you're less likely to take it personally. Motivation is not a straight line, it's a wave, and your success doesn't depend on riding the wave perfectly. It depends on staying on the board when the wave crashes. So, why do we quit? It's rarely about laziness. It's about emotional disconnection, unclear goals, mental friction, identity conflict, unrealistic expectations, fear of failure, and poor systems. But once you understand the psychology behind it, you can beat it. Start small, start specific, tie your goals to something deeper, build habits, reduce friction, protect your energy. And most of all, remember that motivation isn't something you wait for, it's something you create one choice at a time. Now get out there and keep going. Thanks for listening. Be sure to subscribe for more videos like this.